So that's what we're here to talk about today, and Hazel's going to be kicking us off. So for those, I know some of you know Hazel already. For those of you who don't know Hazel, she is a solicitor with Stephens Scown. She's recently been through the B-Corp certification process with them, and we'll touch on that a little. She's an employment law specialist. She spends her days providing practical advice to employer clients on a range of employment law and HR issues, and supporting employers with things like policies around sustainability. So Hazel's going to tell us a bit about the policies and benefits that you can put in place for employees to support your sustainability journey, and also a bit more about how to engage your employees in general in your sustainability journey. So can we have a big round of silent applause, please, for our speaker today from Stephens Scown Solicitors, Chartered Legal Executive, Hazel Sanders.
I'm on mute. Hi, everybody. Right, I'm going to attempt to share my screen, and I'd be grateful, maybe, Richard, if you could tell me if that's worked. Let me just do that now. Okay. Can you see that?
Yeah, that's all good. Yeah.
Perfect. Well, thanks everyone for coming along today. As Richard touched upon, Stephens Scown, we're really happy that we've managed to become B-Corp certified, because it means a lot to all the Scowners, as we call ourselves, because we all got very much engaged with that journey, and it's very much at the heart of our business to want to be sustainable. So that's me. Right, so what I want to share with you today, Richard's already touched upon some of this, but really, what is B-Corp? It's not going to be right for everybody, but I thought it would be useful maybe just to give a quick overview of what that was, how you can look about getting your employees engaged on the journey to sustainability, and what kind of policies you can put in place to encourage employees to work sustainably. Now, not everything that I'm going to talk about will work for every business, because it will depend on your size, your resources, and generally how you operate. But hopefully there's some ideas that are kind of outside of what you may have heard before, that you might be able to engage with. You know, we don't do all of the things I'm going to talk about in terms of the policies. It's just about having the ones that work for your business, I think. Right, so what is B-Corp? So you might have heard about the triple bottom line: people, planet and profit, and that's fueled by the emergence of B-Corp. So B-Corps use profit and growth as a mean to a greater end, positive impact for their employees, communities, and the environment. And as Richard just mentioned, we do need to work as communities really to drive change forwards. So if you get certified as a B Corporation, you get verified by B Lab, which is a non-profit organisation. And in our mind, it's the highest accreditation for being an ethical, purposeful business. So how do they do that? They certify companies based on how they create value. So instead of focusing purely on the stakeholders in the business, it's looking at how they create value for their employees, the local community and the environment. As I said at the beginning, it's probably not going to be for everyone, but it is something that you might want to consider for your business. And if it is, I'm more than happy to talk to you guys, anyone, about the kind of employment HR side of things. But I touched base with Verity Slater, who's the member of the board that kind of led the B-Corp journey for Stephens Scown, and she did say that as part of B-Corp, one of the things we want to do is really help other businesses go through that sustainability journey. So Verity's more than happy to have a chat with anyone if they want more on the kind of B-Corp side of things, because she's the expert on that side. So how do you get people on board? So some of this might sound obvious, some of it might be that it doesn't work entirely for your business, but some of it hopefully will help. So involve your employees in the planning and design any actions you take. So don't just, external consultants are definitely necessary for helping you calculate how you get to net zero and how all those side of things. But don't just rely purely on your external consultants to tell you what you need to do. Get your employees' input, because employees are far more likely to engage in processes if they feel that their voices have been heard. And also your employees employees are a rich bed of people. You know, they're going to have looked at a lot of different books and blogs than you have. You're one person. They're, say, 10 if you've got a team of 10. It's a rich bed of knowledge that you can tap into. Stephens Scown, we're employee owned. I think it makes a big difference. One of the many benefits of employee ownership, in my mind, is that people truly feel part of the business. And if you can get people to feel a part of the business rather than just an employee who turns up to work and goes home again, then they feel more responsible for it and the actions that they take. It also gives them more of a say in the direction of the company. So all in all, it's a great way to improve employee engagement. Advocates across the business. So this is basically just trying to say, do not have just senior team members leading on all the different aspects you can have. You know, when we went through the journey, we made sure that we had somebody, you know, obviously we're a big company, but we had someone in HR, somebody in accounts, somebody in the reception staff, you know, the trustees involved, and people volunteering to get involved at all levels, which I think really helped drive it forwards. Because if you see your colleagues engaging on something and not just the senior team members, then you're far more likely to get engagement. Baking sustainability into all your decisions. I think this is quite key. It kind of ties in with the walking the walk, don't just talk the talk. It's really great if you can show that the decisions that you're trying to make are all based with sustainability at their heart. So at Stephens Scown, we have what we call our employer value proposition, which is basically doing great, being great, having fun, and owning it. So owning it's our employee engagement. Having fun is because we believe that we should be out there having fun with our colleagues and building a better world. Being great is because we want to offer great client service, but doing great is one of the key pillars. And therefore, when we're looking at decisions at any level in the business, we look to that employer value proposition and we tick off against those boxes. So that's quite key. Walk the walk. I think this is, you know, very important, and it's very easy to sometimes get external consultants in, or, you know, start out on a journey really purposefully with, you know, with great intent. But, you know, things happen, things get busy, and it just slips down the agenda again. That's going to just obviously bottom out engagement for you. So how can you walk the walk a bit better? So include it in all your decisions, as I've just said. And an example of this perhaps is thinking about your gifts for staff. So if you give people a little Christmas present or something, don't just run down to Marks and Spencer's or Sainsbury's or something in your lunch break and pop up a bottle of Prosecco. Source something local and sustainable. All our gifts now at Stephens Scown, because the partners are very kind, they do get us Christmas presents, but they're all now locally sourced, and it all comes in recycling packaging. And it's something you notice. I notice where it comes from and the values of the businesses that we're interacting with. So that's a good one to do. Listen to employees and feedback on issues that are important to them. Active listening, very important. We discuss it at our inductions and also our appraisals. We set objectives in line with sustainable goals. So, for example, one of my objectives this year in my appraisal is to engage with the Giving Back programme and use our volunteer days. I'll touch on that in a bit, but making sure that, you know, people know that it's something that they have time to do within their workday, and it's something that's actively encouraged, is quite important. Be accountable and feedback on how your journey is going. Don't just set goals and then hope people will engage with them. You need to be feeding back readily and being accountable. And if things aren't going well, then admit it and refocus the situation. Don't just try and blanket. External speakers. This is having people into your business to help talk on subjects around sustainability or the environment. So, for example, we had Surfers Against Sewage have come in. We've had speakers come in and give us talks on carbon footprinting and how we can assess ours, you know, on a personal level as well. And just having that extra value and support for people to make a difference in their own personal journeys as well as the business is really important. Giving back programme, I'm going to move on to now, because that's a whole thing in itself. So at Stephens Scown, we have an all-encompassing giving back programme. So we have 4 pillars. This might not work for every business, especially pro bono, but we have pro bono, the environment, charity and volunteering as our pillars, and we have individuals that lead those pillars. And again, as I said, try to avoid just using senior people for that. So just touching briefly on the different pillars that we've got and how we engage employees through the way they operate. Charities. So as an employer, as a business, we have a firm charity. And then we have, because we've got 2 offices, we have a local charity, and they're all voted for. It's employees or sconers, that put forward their suggestions, and then we vote for them. So everybody feels that there's quite a lot of buy-in around the charity side of it. But not only that, the firm supports us in things that are close to our own hearts. So when I was on maternity leave, the firm donated £50 towards my 100 miles in March for the WWF challenge that I did. And engaging in what it matters to your employees, not just your charity, your firm's charities or business charities, I think that's quite important. And shows things go both ways. Volunteering. At Stephens Scown, we have free volunteer days, which are paid days off that we can use for any cause that we choose. I'm hoping to use mine to support the Amber Foundation this year, because I bumped into Jenna from there on the business network, and it really struck me that that would be a good way to spend my time. So that's something that you can do. Environmental issues. This is maybe where it's sensible to have someone who's maybe in, if you have an office manager, sometimes they're quite good to lead on the environmental side of things, but obviously make sure that they're happy to engage in that role. And if you've got someone who's really enthusiastic for it, then, that's all the better. Pro bono, as I said, it might not work for everybody, but, if you can offer services to a charity or to an environmental cause, then again, that just shows that to your employees that you really are engaged with this journey, and you are willing to put sustainability and volunteering and giving back to the community before profit. We're on the road to net zero. This is just up really to remind you that if you're on one of those journeys, make sure you're setting targets and being accountable, and giving your annual reports back to your staff. Key messaging. So at Stephens Scown, we have 6 key messages that we put out there as being what our firm is. And one of them is this: we give back and we make a difference. I won't read the whole slide because obviously it's up there, but this is everybody out. This is actually my colleagues from the Truro office out on a litter pick is the picture there. But again, baking that into your organization, that is a key message, that you are there to give back and make a difference, is really powerful to your staff, and will help engage them. Again, ownership, because we bang on about employee ownership all the time. We love it. It is great, to be fair. It is very good. Let's move on. So sustainability at the heart of your policies. Now, as I say, Stephens Scown, we don't have all of these. Some of them might not be suitable for your business, but it's just about giving you some ideas about how you can kind of bake it in, and help your employees make more sustainable decisions, especially at a time where the cost of living is impacting on people quite a bit. So these ideas that I'm about to give you are taken from what's called the Chancery Lane Project. And that was basically a group of lawyers that got together and decided that they wanted to develop a series of contracts and clauses and policies to help fight climate change and encourage environmentally conscious business. And we were lucky enough to be a part of going forward with the Chancery Lane Project. So climate sabbatical, or garden leave. So normally when you put an employee on garden leave, that's when they're still employed by you, but you've told them to just wait at home on their notice period. Normally they can't undertake any volunteering work or any other work because they're still your employee, but that's your decision, and you could have a policy that says that, obviously subject to your approval, that they could take up volunteering for an environmental organisation during that garden leave, for example. Similarly, sabbaticals, they're not overly common, but when granted, they are normally unpaid. But some companies put forward a climate sabbatical policy, which allows employees to undertake volunteering at an environmental organisation. And for example, instead of being unpaid, it could be a month off on half pay, just to allow them to go and engage in that environmental organisation and volunteer in that way. Travel commuting policy. This is something that might actually be something that more companies can put in place. So you could either have a policy that if people walk, run or cycle, I've even heard of someone who actually rode to Exeter, they just nipped up on their boat and brought it on site. You can allow your employees to apply for a green allowance to cover such things as trainers, bike repairs, etc. You can offer contributions if people use public transport. That's quite a good one. If you've got on-site parking, if it's limited, this is definitely a good way forwards. You could limit it so that you can only actually use the parking as an employee if you've got an electric car or if you're car sharing. We do this, unless there's something really urgent, you can't get in our car park and get a space unless you are car sharing or you're an electric vehicle. Please be careful though, if you do offer free parking, that you're not breaching contractual terms. You might just want to double check that if it's something you've been doing for a long time before you look at any changes around that. Dress code. If you've got uniforms, you can make sure that you are sustainably sourcing them. So make sure that either you go using organic or made from recycled materials or sourced from net zero suppliers. That works in two ways. A, is a great policy to help your staff use sustainable clothing, but also it helps engage them because, again, it's showing that you are committed. Or you could offer an allowance for people to buy clothes from pre-approved suppliers. A bit out there, but it's something that can be done. Disciplinary procedure. Environmental misconduct. So this is more about making sure your employees are aware of your expectations of them to work towards your net zero goals, to make sure that we'll touch on this in a minute, but in procurement policies that they are taking into consider environmental and sustainability factors. It might not fit with your company focus on how you want to approach things, because obviously it is saying, do as I say, else you might get disciplinary. But it might be something that you can put in to your existing disciplinary policy just to make people aware that it's something you take very seriously. Expenses policy. This is just about sustainable transport and making sure people are encouraged to use public transport, and if they need to use taxis, making sure you use electric or hybrid firms. If you're big enough, you can have a firm on standby that you tell people to use. Flexible working policy. So these chancery lane clauses were made somewhat before COVID. So obviously now home working is quite common anyway, but it's something that you can have there in policy that, when considering a home working request, one of the things you'll consider is whether it's going to significantly reduce carbon emissions, or there might be another positive environmental impact as a result of that. Holiday policy. I quite like this one personally. Sounds quite good to me. So to encourage people to take more sustainable transport when they go on holiday, if someone books 5 or more days holiday, so a week or more on holiday, grant them an extra day of paid holiday if they prove that they're going somewhere by ferry or by train, so that they are rather than flying, which I thought was quite an interesting way of approaching managing holiday and having that positive impact on a personal aspect of somebody's life. The procurement policy, elimination of single-use plastics, making sure that you have a policy in place that says that you need to work to eliminate the use of single-use plastics in the working environment and the supply chain, and set it as a requirement that your employees factor that into decision making. Training policies, you can have an environmental and sustainability training program. Now, this could either be, if you're a bigger business, you can either have it that when people join and regularly afterwards, that you run regular sessions that people have to join after so long, or it could be around having those lunchtime guest speakers in that I mentioned, which can be around sustainable eating habits, promotion of the protection and enhancement of biodiversity and ecosystems, importance of achieving net zero, all those kinds of things. So yeah, you can either have this as a kind of roll in, people come in on lunchtimes, or you can have it as more of a structured training program. Whistleblowing policy, if people are breaking the law, then it would be covered by whistleblowing anyway. But basically, whistleblowing is making protected disclosures saying that there's some wrongdoing, and just making it clear to employees that they should report environmental concerns, or if employees are conducting themselves in a way which might damage your journey to net zero, etc. So those are just some ideas around that. Engaging defeatist employees. Now, you know, I say this as if I think everybody can get to a point regularly that it feels like it is too much, that it's not going to work, and why should I bother? And some people will take a negative view on the journey, and they'll question the difference that you can make. They will question whether or not you really mean it, or if you're just in it for the profit. The more you walk the walk, the more they will engage, and the more they will see that you are actually engaged in it as a business. You're not putting profit before the environment. And hopefully it will slowly turn them around, especially if all their other colleagues are getting on board, because they don't want to be the one left out making a fuss. If employees do start becoming disruptive to your goals, then obviously seek advice. But I just wanted to leave you with this, which is a quote from actually my daughter's book called "This Is Your World." And it's a quote that I've actually said to a number of people. And so I just thought I'd share it at the end here. At times you might feel tiny, like the smallest drop of rain, but you can make a difference too. Come here and I'll explain. Together raindrops make a storm that reaches far and wide. Anything is possible with others by your side. And it wasn't planned, Richard's introduction. I didn't know what he was going to say, but I think that ties in quite well with your Richard's introduction around the fact that if we act as a community, we can make a difference. So obviously, don't say that to a defeatist employee, because they might find you a little more condescending side if they're in a bit of a grump with you already. But it's just a nice thought that I really enjoy from my daughter's book. And it's called "This Is Your World." So thank you. I think probably coming up to time, Richard. Dom, I don't know if anyone wants to nod at me.
Yeah, we're
that's fine.
We're just
So
about
I think
dead on time. Well done, Hazel.
As it get well, I'm quite happy with that. If anyone has any questions, I think Richard said if you pop them in the chat box, and then we can pick them up from there. And then I will do a little video, answer the questions, and we can share that round afterwards. And obviously I can get the slide shared as well, because I know I've gone on over quite a bit, but hopefully the PowerPoint slides will give you some good headlines to help you move forwards.